Now Kenya Michelle, a student leader. Allow me to present to you the issues raised by the youth, some of the youth across East Africa. I will start with the background and context. Youth make up a significant proportion of the demographic proportion in Zambia, Uganda, and Kenya, according to the National Statistics Bureau of the three countries. According to the Uganda Bureau of Statistics 2024 and Kenya National Bureau of Statistics 2023, over 75% of the country's population are under the age of 30. In Uganda, over 78% of the population is below 30 years, and in Kenya, over 75% of the population is below 35 years. In Zambia, between 74 to 81% of the entire population is under 35 years, according to the estimates by the United Nations Population Fund. Despite their numerical strength, youth remain largely excluded from meaningful civic engagement and decision-making programs, and normally minority when it comes to policy implementation, according to the Coalition for Africa on Women 1-3-5. Elections, which should offer pathways for inclusion, often expose young people to violence, manipulation, and exclusion, with politics increasingly becoming a game of money and a die-or-die game rather than competition of ideas in the three countries. This youth position paper is a social contract between youth, civil society organizations, and the governments of member states, including political leaders, religious leaders, and all those in positions of authority and influence. It is a brief policy paper that articulates the key priorities and demands of East African youth. Since its development through our space project under successful cluster granting phases in 2023 to 2024 and 2025 to 2026, through thoroughly consultation of young people. It serves as a collective youth voice for addressing critical issues, including youth participation in decision-making processes. It has established opportunities for authentic youth voice in the political process and thereafter in the governance sphere, while encouraging youth participation in identifying ways in which policies and programs can better serve their needs. In the aftermath of 2026, Uganda's general election, and as Kenya head into 2027 general elections, youth are increasingly marginal group and often excluded from the political system. Their voices are underrepresented. Actually, 4 in 5 young people in slums of Mathare and Mukuru during the regional periodic convening say that they are not part of the decision-making process, that in some instances they are invited to meetings, but policies are made elsewhere. Therefore, young people have no authority, especially where public policy issues continue to take on less interest in young people's priorities, making them unable to take up policy positions on issues that affect them. Studies on youth participation in governance, decision-making, policy formulation, and government programs have found it to be limited due to many local-level participatory structures described as inactive or ineffective. Afrobarometer Report 2023, Virginia Cox 2023. Decentralization and youth participation in local governance remain crucial for meaningful youth engagement, giving young people a voice in decision-making processes that can affect their lives and allows them to actively contribute to shaping their communities and the country's future. The fact that the current youth policy framework also advocates for increased youth representation and participation in decision-making programs at all levels of governments and social service society. The low participation of youth in decision-making is attributed to several factors, including lack of leadership and management skills, organizational regulatory barriers, low resource allocation to youth programs. This lack of effective participation is further compounded by the fact that youth are often given nominal roles in political parties through youth weeks and leaders, but their actual impact remains minimal. Wamaji and Mbagazi 2022. How were views collected? A variety of methods were employed in the completion of this paper. As indicated earlier, it builds on past efforts, experiences presented by young people, especially those in slums, and further relied on an intensive review of previous electoral reform efforts and proposals of civil society organizations, academia, political parties, and private members' bill on constitutional reforms, recommendations of electoral bodies of the three countries and international and domestic election observers in various election cycles in Uganda, Kenya, and Zambia. Consultation and development of the paper was initiated immediately after the physical convening that happened in May 2024 in slums of Mathare and Mukuru, Kwenjaga of Kenya. In Zambia, young people living in slums of Lusaka were consulted, not leaving those in slums of Uganda, Kampala, and Wakiso. The development majorly relied on inputs from extensive consultations conducted between 2023 and 2026 by the Hope for Life Uganda and its consortium-based partners, including their regional-based CSOs partners under our space project, an initiative by Wide Program powered by European Union. These consultations directly involved 7,300 participants who were involved in project activities, online surveys, community meetings, and feedback forms through various platforms. The views collected throughout these consultations were validated during the online virtual stakeholders consultation at districts and with regional stakeholders through phone interviews and brief webinar consultations since 2025. These stakeholder meetings were attended by district chairpersons, religious and cultural leaders, district youth councillors and speakers, East African Parliament Youth Assembly representatives, media practitioners, academics, students, youth, and representatives of civil society organizations. A diverse range of perspectives and experiences have therefore been considered in the development of this paper. Key challenges noted facing youth in civic participation over the years of our space project include election violence. Youth in these countries are often used as tools of political violence rather than as agents of peace. Case in point, in Uganda's 2021 elections, over 51 people, majorly youth, were killed during the November protests as a result of military confrontations with civilians, as police arrested the leading opposition figure. In Kenya, the 2007 to 2008 post-election violence and tensions during the elections left hundreds dead and thousands injured, many of whom were young. During the recently concluded 2026 elections in Uganda, where internet was shut down, unconfirmed reports indicate a significant number of over 500, majority youth, were killed during the elections. Thousands are in jail, and many youth continue to disappear. Furthermore, youths are beaten and many youth agents are kidnapped, detained illegally. Opposition suppression in form of house arrest during and after elections, which is currently happening in Uganda. ethnic and tribal divisions that result into ethnic violence and politics of divide and rule that further creates post-election hatred among tribes and regions. Unemployment, where youth are paid to cause havoc because of being redundant and are easily hired to disrupt election campaigns. Lack of independence of electoral commissions that continue to be silent when opposition are denied access by security agencies to the venue agreed upon to conduct campaigns, resulting into confrontations between civilians who are majorly youth and security agencies. Military involvement in election processes in Uganda. During the 2026 general elections, the military usurped the powers of Electoral Commission, issuing guidelines and applying laws and regulations, selectively resulting into confrontations. Monetarization of elections. Political leadership is increasingly commercialized, locking out youth with no access to wealth. In Kenya, running for Member of Parliament in 2022, according to Kenya media reports, required one to have a campaign budget of at least 20 to 30 million Kenyan shillings. The high nomination fee in Kenya among political parties that disengages youth to substantively be active in parties. In Uganda, nomination fee and campaign costs for a Member of Parliament seat could require one to invest between 300 to 500 million Ugandan shillings, according to a report by Alliance for Finance Monitoring 2021. This has effectively excluded youth without financial backing. This trend undermines democracy by repressing merit and vision with money and patronage. With a famous quote from Patrick Loch Atieno Lumumba of Kenya that, in Europe, politicians go across towns and villages telling their people what they will do when they are voted into office. However, in Africa, politicians pack salt and soap to distribute to electorates. Instead, voters value those with salt than politicians coming with new ideas and not items. Systemic barriers to youth participation. Limited affirmative action with such positions, non-substantive and operational. The mentality by those in power that youth cannot be good leaders and are only inclined to violence. Lack of information on civic education as it is poorly integrated into education systems. Worst of all, the Electoral Commission that is mandated to do the work of civic awareness being dormant, leading to voter apathy and low voter turnout, with the recent 2026 Uganda's elections being high at 49%, affecting over 89% of the majority young people who made the registered voters of 21,681,491. Limited forums for dialogue and policy influence. While national youth councils and youth parliaments exist in these countries and are mandated to give a platform to young people, many are unfunded and unresourced. Some are being politicized and monopolized by the government, and many are detached from real political power without grassroots youth voices being considered in budgeting, policy making, or in any civic processes. Media interference by the state during elections. A case in point, in Uganda's 2026 elections, where mainstream medias were directed not to take live coverage of the opposition candidates. There are always no balanced coverage as the state dominates media. Some media's licenses were threatened and some revoked and suspended, like Radio Simba. Internet shutdown and digital divide. For the case in Uganda's 2026 election, the government, through Uganda Communications Commission, ordered countrywide internet shutdown. Without camera, security agencies attacked homes of opposition and their agents with an identifiable number, people majorly being youth, report killed or kidnapped in the night of elections. It further affected Uganda's economy and lost over 26 billion as all online financial services were further suspended. Furthermore, in most of areas in these, many young people have no access to internet because of the high social media taxes and low internet coverage. Thank you.
My name is Julius. I'm here to give out the youth demands and positions. And youths from Uganda, Tanzania, and Kenya, we stand united to demanding for these inclusive and safe elections through encroachment of non-violence pacts among political acts, training and engagements from youth as peace ambassadors for protection of digital and physical spaces for political expression must be adopted by all stakeholders and states not applying computers, misuse law excessively during and after elections. Demonetization of politics, enact and enforce campaigns financing laws to keep spending, increasing public financing support for youth candidates, reduction of nomination fees by electoral commission, criminalize voter library, and voted more decisively political parties should lower the nomination fees and increase election editing by office of Attorney General State Attorney Demand. A case in point is Uganda Human Rights Commission through the Ministry of Justice and Commercial Affairs should formulate, adopt a national Ministry of Justice and Commercial Affairs. Structural reforms from youth in conclusion, lower age limits for effective position, strengthen affirmative action, works for youth at local and national levels, institutionalize youth representation in the decision-making committees and increase fund support through increase in budget, a proportion of about 3%. Strengthen digital platforms through support and fund grassroots, youth councils and local peace forms, and ensure youth seats in parliamentary committees and effective, inclusive and respect elections observer missions. Policy recommendations and the governments and stakeholders. National governments. We call on the government to adopt and implement the African Youth Character as by its 2025 committees, integrate civic education into schools, curriculum, and the National Youth Program. Allocate 50% of the National Youth Council funding to the district youth councillors to enable them to establish functional structures that they supplies effectively through empowerment programs to support youth inclusion, in government programs, establish youth political leadership, academics, and youth consultation forms by the state of political parties, make codes of law disability friendly through the installation of access points, sign language interpreters, barriers, among others. For the case of Uganda, with the installation of the inter-party organizations for dialogue, in brackets IPOD, there is a need of ring fence of 20% of fund allocated to political parties' youth language to enable proper functioning of the youth leaders to the Electoral Commission. Engage youth as voter, educators, and lives monitors to empower them as civic champions to ensure elections are free and fair. The Electoral Commission of the three countries should undertake campaigns on voters' education beyond election cycles to the political parties. Remove internal nomination bottlenecks for younger candidates. Monitor and include youth party leadership structures through the instructed leadership, academics. Design and implement gender and inclusive policies that protect women and other marginalized groups to enable them to participate conclusively in the party elections. Note that the youth positions paper guides young people in the respective capacities in East Africa to engage in the issue-based and politics of ideology during and after the electoral period. We make a clarion call to all stakeholders, including activities, to continue to prioritize these key issues on their agenda of advocacy plans. States and political parties should integrate this proposal in their party manifesto and into their leadership to work towards the realization of youth's responsive manifesto in order to support Goal 16, Goal 4, and Goal 5 of the Suitable Development Goal 2030.
Remain seated. Remain seated.
Yeah, remain seated. I think just we need to appreciate these young people. The project is looking for people like Julius, by the way. It's looking for people like Julius, people like Michelle. We are not looking for those members of parliament. These are the people we are looking for. So let us appreciate them. It's amazing. So as we conclude, I will just call upon the members of the organization to hand over these reports to the key stakeholders, of course. This is part of the work that we've been doing, and you adopt it. After that, handing it over, you will also move and do append your signature to the report. The report has been covering recent key issues. There is only history. There is no history here. Everything we've given out, it is data and it's in the media. So I call upon members of the organizations, that is Hope for Life Uganda, Women Crusade, Circles of Hope, and Echoes of Inspiration, to come over here. You're going to hand over those reports, books, together with the young people to our stakeholders. Each stakeholder will have a copy of it to help them do advocacy work, but also mainstream. Some of them are positions of power, authority, we have church leaders, we have people representing those with disability. So it's really a critical one that you need to have a copy of it. Yeah, you just take it up and please panelists, you could please stand. I'm sorry, my honors, let me stand. You stand, then you'll be given a copy each of that book to help further push. Yusuf, no, it should be here or here, then you move as you move. Give one as you move. One as you move. That's the data that will help enhance our advocacy plan. But also we are going to upload it on our social media handles, website. So it will be available for all of us to access it and read it. In case you want a copy, you could actually reach out to our address of Uganda or mail. So thank you so much. You again, you are sitting. You are the host. You lead the panel to come and sign the declaration, the adoption. You lead them to come and sign. That is the last ceremony the central government is demanding. So thank you so much, and thank you people whenever I call you to these conversations. We hope that these conversations will go beyond. But sometimes we are limited. Yeah, so we should append the signature to all us agree that yes, we agree to this and we agree with the commitments of young people.